Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Astatar Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Ju Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Shri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai. Ganga Devi, Jamuna Devi, Bhakti Devi, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Om Vishnu Pad Vishnu Varenya Srilesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Vimalavadut Maharaj Ki Jai. Srimad Paramananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Seva Vrinda Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Dhinashraya Prabhu. Some question.
First question is from Gupta Govardhan. Devotees. Dear Maharaj, please explain to us how can we avoid the unfavorable actions in spiritual life? Sometimes the most we can do is to stay away from the action itself, but not from thinking or willing.
Well, we've been told this: thinking, feeling, willing, acting. So the mind being an instrument of reflection, like a mirror reflects whatever you place before it. It's bound to be reflected. But that doesn't mean because it's appeared in the mirror or the reflection or in the mind that it has to be taken seriously, contemplated deeply, to the point of where it's aroused feelings and then wish fulfillment. So there's one idea to try and eliminate from the mind unfavorable or inauspicious thinking. But what Krishna tells Arjuna in the Gita is more a proactive position. He says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina raso varjam rasopyasya param drishva nivartate. That by giving the mind superior subject matter to dwell on, being infused, filled with superior subject matter, then automatically the inferior subject matter diminishes, vanishes. So the first process we hear that's given emphasis is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, etc. Hearing. So, what are the sources of hearing? Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, Vaishnav. The statements of the scripture, revealed truth, as opposed to just objective truth about the physical world. We're trying to move towards the metaphysical or the spiritual. Elsewhere in the Gita, says, Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param manaha manasastu barabudhe yo budhe paratastu sa. We got the objects, sense objects, the objective world, which interestingly, from Vedic analysis, is tamagun. Above that are the rajagun, are the instruments of sense perception, the eyes, ears, nose, etc. But from the sattvagun position is the mind, which is the seat of sense experience, that's seeing through the eyes, hearing through the ears. So it's told to be in the superior position, but not the spiritual position. But it's the seat of sense experience, is the mind, right, that's processing all of this, right, but in a relatively indiscriminate way. Whatever's being observed is being considered indiscriminately. So buddhi, intelligence, means the discriminating factor. That this is a favorable thing, unfavorable, desirable, undesirable. That. And we're told Shastra Chakshu, to see through the eyes of scripture, means the intelligence can be infused with a spiritual quality by hearing from the sadhus, the saints, the Shastra, Guru, and can develop a new standard of what is desirable and undesirable from a spiritual perspective, whether it be internally nourishing. But still, manasastu parabud yo budhe paratastu sa. The soul is situated above that plane of intelligence, atma, trying to come under the influence of paramatma, the soul and the super soul. So the super soul region, Guru Maharaj will say in different times, try to take your stand in the nirguna plane, above the three modes, tamagun, rajagun, sattvagun, ignorance, passion, and goodness. Be situated in the nirguna plane. He mentions that after the Kurukshetra war, one Brahmin thought Krishna is the cause of all of this death and destruction. So he summoned all of his power that he'd accumulated by performing austerities and spiritual practices. And he's going to curse Krishna. And Krishna told him, hold that thought for a moment. You're, as a Brahmin, you're in the saguna plane. But I'm in the nirguna plane, transcendental to the modes of nature. So if you try to curse me with the power you've accumulated in this world, it won't touch me. Right? And the end result will be is you've just expended your accumulated power. So we try to stay connected with that plane through hearing and accurately reproducing what has been heard, and in the process remembering and contemplating that. Elsewhere in the Gita, Krishna says, Udaret atmanatmanam natmanam avasadet atmaeva hyatmano bandhur atmaeva ripuratmana. The mind can assist you in a friendly way, engage in spiritual culture, or it can be your worst enemy. The uncontrolled mind that's repeatedly dragging the soul down from the subjective plane, seeking satisfaction and fulfillment in the objective world. Which means, really, from the soul's position, trying to acquire, control, and consume what is lower. Right? The soul's spiritual and the subjective plane. How is it going to achieve fulfillment through the acquisition of objective reality? It's not possible. It will end in frustration and delusion. So, hearing, we become awakened to another prospect of another world, of the inner world, the subjective aspect of reality. So, it requires some practice, some spiritual culture. But we're told, asatsanga tyage vaishnavachara, one of the first spiritual principles is to avoid bad association, that which distracts one or deviates one from inner culture. So sometimes that may be the best we can do, but we seek improvement through higher association. So really, association always comes to focus us and improve our position. Yes?
So, Maharaj, how is it possible still this sound relates with some material element, but by hearing we can feel in this transcendental energy? How it's possible at all?
Vaikuntha nama grahanam. Is it actually spiritual sound descending from the spiritual plane? Not that I have some stereotype in my mind of what is spiritual and I'm going on cultivating that. That's not the idea. It has to be, in actuality, descending into this plane from the upper world. So the scriptures are called Amnaya Tattva, revealed truth, not what is scientifically observable, but what's coming in what we call Shabda Brahma, spiritual sound. So that means Veda, Purana, Vedic literature, Puranic literature, Shruti. Sometimes the literature as a whole is called Shruti, which means what is heard. So Guru Maharaj tells us actually sound is which here occupies such a high position, it's the lower aspect of the spiritual reality. But that's why it easily connects with this world. So by hearing from substantial agents and authorities, it penetrates the layers of senses, mind, and intellect, and awakens the soul. So it's spirit manipulating the material elements for expression, as opposed to the inverse, trying to manipulate the mundane to achieve the spiritual. Descending spiritual sound, it's using the mundane elements to express itself. And we should remember that Guru Maharaj says at present the soul is covered by acquired tendency and acquired prejudice, and misidentifying with itself as the body, mind, senses. But it doesn't mean that in the liberated position, then one might falsely think, oh, then no senses, no mind, no body, none of these things. But rather, as they are coverings, or in another place he says, chaya bas, shadow-like representation. So the mundane intelligence, mind, senses are a shadow representation of the spiritual self. So the soul possesses senses, mind and intellect by extension. So this question comes up in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 87th chapter, the prayers of the personified Vedas, the Veda Stuti, where Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, if the tongue is made of material elements, the ear, all of these things are mundane, how can the Vedas express themselves? How can that which is spiritual be expressed by these things? And part of the answer given is that actually this is the only reason you have these things, or the real underlying purpose of possessing senses, right? Is to hear srotavyas kirtitavyas cha smartavyas chaitatavayam, to hear about, to remember, to glorify Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I've mentioned this many times when I was flying from Beijing to New York on Air China, and sitting next to me is this Chinese professor, teaches at a leading American university. He teaches advanced computer science, like postgraduate computer science. So I thought, well, this is a good opportunity to run some ideas by him. I said, can I ask you a few questions? He said, yes. I said, can you say with absolute certainty that the original, and giving flowers, we have so many beautiful flowers here. Earlier I smelled the flower with this wonderful fragrance and aroma. It's mind-altering, it's beautiful, it's sweet, in so many ways. I said, can you say with absolute certainty the original source of all these things, like flowers, aroma, the original source of all aroma, can you say with absolute certainty it has no olfactory capacity? Cannot smell. What I can do, you can do, the bee can do, going from flower to flower. Right? A child can do this. Right? Anyone, regardless of their level of intellectual development, they can smell this and smell it as sweet. And it can be a pleasing experience. So can the original source of all these things do that? Smell the flower and have a pleasant experience? Can you say with absolute certainty that that's not a possibility? And he said, as you phrase this question, putting in the line, absolute certainty, he said, no, I cannot. He's a very, honest person speaking candidly. Then I said, well, then I don't need to ask you the other questions, because the other questions would have been the same question framed in terms of seeing, hearing, tasting, feeling. So then, the point was, you're allowing for the possibility that the original source of all these things, of all sense experience, has senses. And that would imply personality. Now we're talking about an absolute personality. So we're talking about the absolute supreme personality of Godhead, who can see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and feel. Mam evangsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. And we're his angshas, parts. So we can hear, taste, touch, smell, feel. And what do we like to engage essentially with? That which is beautiful and compelling and heart devouring, mind stealing. These are not objective things. Right? When the mind is overwhelmed, when they say, well, scientifically, what's happening here in different parts of the brain, actually, certain chemicals, that's another thing. It's like if we look at the moon, oh, the moon is so beautiful. As Guru Maharaj meant, the honeymoon for the newly married, the moon of poetry, the romantic moon. Right? If we say, no, science says, no, it's none of those things. Actually, it's just dust, dirt, rocks. Don't get too excited about it. Right? that it may be that objectively. You can dissect the objective beauty of a woman and say, don't get too excited about it. Look, we cut it open, here's all it is. Right? That may be true from an objective point of view, but subjectively there's something there that we find compelling. Right? That's the point. It's about subjective culture versus objective culture. So, and as we know from our, what's the mathematician's name? Gödel's theorem, that many things that are true, real, cannot be proven. So, that someone's beautiful. Say, well, it's a matter of taste. You can't prove that the most beautiful woman in the world is beautiful. You can't prove that a joke is funny. In fact, with comedians, like they say, if you have to explain it, you already lost. If you tell a joke and nobody laughs and then you have to explain why it was funny, forget it. You're wasting your time. So, what we can understand from this, yes, we're living in an objective world, but we're hardwired to seek something subjective in terms of beauty, charm, sweetness, love, and affection, that we not, in the highest sense, want to make an object of consumption, but rather our better self is searching for something to offer ourselves to. That's that compelling, that you want to give yourself over to that person. So we hear the saying, prati anga lagi kande, prati anga mur, where every atom of the heart and soul's hankering is crying out and hankering for its correspondent. When we think of love and affection, generally we have some ideal in mind. But really, if we refine and get more specific about the word ideal, it'll take us to the absolute. Really, the ideal and absolute can be synonymous. So, who is capable of satisfying every atom of our heart's hankering? And not only one, but of everyone. And not only that, but simultaneously. Right? And the full spectrum of sensual possibility. That's the absolute personality of Godhead, otherwise known as Krishna. Krish, drawing everyone to the center through attraction, irresistible charm and sweetness. Na, and nourishing them with love, affection, ecstasy. Another question or continue?
It's a question from Dhananjaya Prabhu. When Gaurachandra distributes love for Krishna, who wants this distribution in a stronger degree, Shrimati Radharani or Krishna himself?
Who's asking this question?
Dhananjaya Prabhu.
Dhananjaya Prabhu. Oh. This is one of those mind-bending questions. But Guru Maharaj will always save us. And what comes to mind is him saying that when Radha and Krishna appears Gauranga Dadhar, Krishna and Radharani, Gauranga Dadhar, that is their Acharya Leela. Right? So Guru Rupa Harim Gauram Radha Ruchi Ruchavritam Nityam Nomi Navadvipe Nama Kirtana Nartanai. So the Guru Rupa of Krishna, when Krishna takes the form of Guru, Guru Rupa, Guru, what did I just say? Guru Rupa Harim Gauram. he appears as Gauranga. And what he's distributing is Krishna Prem, but told Radha Baba Subolita, Nomi Krishna Srupam. He's enveloped by the heart and halo of Srimati Radharani. He's distributing her type of Krishna Prem. So he's most eager to do that. And we could say she is somewhat reluctant to, in this sense, part with her heart, but seeing Krishna appearing in that way, that's most similar to her, she's taking assisting in the background in the distribution, augmenting the sentiments, as Guru Maharaj wrote in his Gadadhar Pranam. Nilambodhi tate sada svaviraha kepanvitam bandhavam. Because what is marvelous about this is that Krishna is described as ecstasy personified, beauty personified, 10 million cupids combined as one, that type of seductive attraction. And the supreme positive, Srimati Radharani, is described as his counterpart. And we can say in this sense, the better half of the absolute. Is it possible for the absolute truth to have a better half? In Krishna conception, yes. And she represents that. So, she's love of Krishna personified. Mahabhav, she has the greatest heart. And Krishna observes in their loving exchange that although he's ecstasy personified, in his estimation, what she's experiencing is 10 million times greater than what he's experiencing. That he can understand theoretically. But to relish her position, to taste what she's tasting, to experience the ecstasy that she experiences, to experience the love that she alone possesses, he will have to become her. So, aparam kasyapi pranayi janamradashu kutuki rasostamam ritva madhuram upabhoktam kamapiya. He plunders her heart's wealth. He steals her heart, in this sense, from her, and becomes enveloped in that. Because as Krishna's position, supreme positive, he's an enjoyer. Her position as the supreme negative is enjoyed. And we're told in the Bharat Shastra, the Muni Bharat, who's analyzing love drama, he said, the enjoyment from the male position and the female position are equal. But here, and under the interpretation of Rupa Goswami, and then epitomized in Mahaprabhu, he's saying, no, the female position is greater. There's a greater level of enjoyment there. And in this instance, it's coming from no less than Krishna himself. So now he is experiencing her position, which means, in this context, feeling separation from himself, sva viraha. Now he knows not only what love of Krishna is like, but at its highest augmented state, its greatest depths, yielding the most superior substance, comes from experiencing separation. Right? Even there's that statement in English that separation makes the heart grow fonder. I'm sure there's some equivalent to that in various languages. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So from that position, he's now experiencing what it's like to be swaviraha kepanvitam bandhavam. So in Jagannath Puri, on the banks of the broad blue ocean there, he's experiencing separation from himself, the supreme positive, and the role of the supreme negative is having this experience. Right? And it's so intense, the magnitude of the emotions felt, they're bringing the 10th stage of separation is death. So it's bringing him to a death-like condition. I remember once when we were in Bombay with a friend of mine who was an excellent musician, singer. We could meet with the leading composers there. It was possible because they're also Krishna bhaktas, and so we met with who is one of arguably, the greatest composer in Bollywood. His name was Jayadev. And he was not embarrassed, but he's not like, don't think that what we do in those Bollywood movies is everything. Actually, we like devotional songs, and he was saying privately we get together with the best singers and we sing bhajans. We don't sing those Bollywood songs. But he wanted to share with us the intensity of what was the emotional play of these performances. So he said there were instances where someone was singing these love songs of separation, and in the audience there were members who it became so intense and heart-moving, they had heart attacks and died during the performance. Right? I'm just telling you, this is what he told me. So he's saying, and so you want to sing, he said, all right, let me tell you about singing. They can sing in such a way as people in the audience die during the performance. That's how moved they are. Right? So, and that, I'm not saying that was of the higher spiritual quality. Right? That was some saguna plain version of this, but how heart devouring it was, capturing. So that's why it doesn't sound pleasant when you list, stage 1, stage 2, stage 10, death. Right? We think, well, how can that be good? Interestingly, we hear, because we're dealing with the spiritual world, although they feel like dying in separation from Krishna, Radharani and Brajagopi, they don't die because they know that would make Krishna unhappy. That's the loophole. They're feeling like that. They're approaching that stage. So when Mahaprabhu would be in that condition, who can know what that is like? We can say two, as we did the other day on Lalita Saptami, Swarup Damodar. Being Lalita Saki, Swarup Damodar sees Radharani in that type of condition and knows, if I sing this song, if I supply this poetry, it will either augment a particular ecstatic emotion in the heart or bring some relief to the heart. She has that expertise to detect when to sing what, when to supply what type of poetry. But the other person who can really know what that feeling like is Radharani herself. And Radharani appears in Gaur Leela as Gadadhar Pandit. So in Guru Maharaj's poem, he's saying, while Mahaprabhu is, Nilambodhi tate sada suviraha kepan vidham bandhavam Srimad Bhagavati Katha Madiraya Sanjivayan Bhattiya. He's on the verge of death. Gadadhar Pandit is supplying poetry from Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's acting like Sanjivayan, a type of elixir, medicine that brings one back to life. That's Sanjivayan. Right? But while singing that poetry, supplying that poetry, tears are streaming from the eyes of Gadadhar Pandit. He's holding the Bhagavatam. Tears are coming down his eyes. There's like lotus tears falling onto the pages of the Bhagavatam, and they're washing the words away. See, so those tears are like flower offerings to the poetry, but as they hit the pages, they wash the slokas away. Srimad Bhagavati Katha Madhiraya Sanjivayam Bhatya Srimad Bhagavatam Swada Swanayana Srupayanai Pujayam Goswami Prabharo Gadadhara Vibhur Bhuyat Made Kagati. So what type of spiritual culture is this? It's all about the heart, the real wealth of the heart, the jewel in the heart, how that can be expressed. Vidyate hridaya granti chidyante sarva samshaya. If at present it's covered by acquired prejudice and acquired tendency that are like knots that have a stranglehold on the heart, we're told this can cut through that and release the heart's natural wealth. So many times we heard Srila Gurudev saying, this is a heart-to-heart transaction. It's not data transfer. Machines can do data transfer. This information goes to here. The Google robot will suggest people who like that also like this. It's not like that. A robot can do that. We're not talking about a robotic heart, but the heart free of robots, of mechanical things. As Guru Maharaj says, quality gives us relief from mathematics. This is beyond what can be expressed rationally. The heart is not necessarily rational. In fact, maybe it operates more exclusively in an irrational domain. Mercy is above justice. Justice is mathematics. Karma, this was done, here's the reaction, sorry. Mercy says, oh, I forgive you. Heart is above intellect, mercy above justice. And in this context, the irrational above the rational. So we seek mercy. Guru Maharaj said, do not approach the window that says justice on it and find out what is waiting for you there, but rather go to the Department of Mercy and seek your fortune. Anything else?
Is compassion a necessary element for preaching?
Mm-hmm. Is compassion a necessary element for preaching? Yeah. Definitely. Otherwise, why are you preaching? Because you're angry at someone?
Sense of duty.
Sense of duty. That can be there. But really, from a scriptural point of view, what are the slokas? Titikshava karunika suhridam sarvadehinam ajatava shatma sadhava bhushana. What are the qualities of the sadhu? Titikshava, tolerant, karunika, karuna, means compassion. Kripam buddhiyak paradukka dukke. The Vaishnava's only really pain or distress is to see others suffering for want of a connection with Krishna. So that compassion, that leads them to be kind and merciful to others. But even the duty, if it comes from a position of duty, why will one feel compelled by duty? Because they'll think, oh, my Guru Maharaj was very compassionate and kind with me, so how can I be otherwise with people? So do my duty and express something to them, because I'm feeling the pull of the mercy of my Gurudev. He was merciful to me, causeless mercy. So, but really, it's karuna, compassion. Patita Pavana, so many slokas, expressions come to our mind that express that it's out of compassion that the Supreme Lord and His devotees descend in this world and extend Krishna conception to others.
In one of your lectures.
That? Oh, that was your phone? I thought it was one of the frogs.
This quote from one of your lecture. It's amazing how sincere we can be with a karmic gun at our head. A question, is it the real sincerity? If not, of what kind is the real one?
Yeah, well, when I said that, it had a note of irony or sarcasm, because there's a famous short story by Flannery O'Connor called "A Good Man is Hard to Find," where I won't say long story short because it was a short story, but at the end of the story, this gunman, he's holding this family hostage and he's threatening, and not only but killing the family. And so the mother, she starts pleading with him, and you're like my son, and in many ways she's trying to appeal to him. And the narrator says, and I'm paraphrasing because I forget exactly how it says, but how spiritual or religious she could be with a gun at her head. Then suddenly all these things were coming out. It's very harsh sort of thing, a cruel type story to make a point. But that said, if we had to find some support, Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Vidha Bhajante Mam Jana Sukriti Norjuna, Arto Jigyasar Artarti Gyani Chabar Tarshabha. When one of the compelling reasons for people to take up spiritual culture seriously is when they're inescapably surrounded by karmic circumstance, which they've generated. That has to be noted. We're responsible for the karmic circumstances we find ourselves in. We have nothing to blame on anyone else. Right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. However severe it might be, however unfair it might be, horrendous, whatever it might be, still action and reaction. There's an action in the past that's surfacing as a reaction in the present. So when we're surrounded inescapably by extreme karmic circumstance, it says sukriti, it gives a qualifier. Those with sufficient sukriti, at that moment, it may compel them to take shelter spiritually. Like an epiphany, they suddenly feel compelled to move in a new direction, to seek out spiritual association. So there is an element of sincerity there. But as Guru Maharaj says, there's gradation everywhere and everything. So I say, what's real sincerity? If we had to define that in Guru Maharaj's terms, he would say appreciation for the truth. But then again, we come back to gradation. How much? What level of truth and how much appreciation? Because these are general terms. We say appreciation for the truth. Okay, that's a working definition. Then what level of truth and what level of appreciation? Then the implication will be that even in sincerity, there are degrees, there are gradations. Right? So we could say someone could be sincere, more sincere, and most sincere. Just like Krishna's path, we're told they're perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. We say, well, they're perfect. Those are. The pastimes in Dwarka, we're told they're perfect, the pastimes in Dwarka with the queens of Dwarka. But then more perfect, Mathura, most perfect in Vrindavan. And then lo and behold, we find out in Vrindavan there's gradation. Vrindavana hoite Shrestha Govardhana Shoila, Gandharvika Giridhari Jata Krita Koila. Superior to pastimes Vrindavan and Govardhan. Superior to that, Radha Kund. Superior to that, Tata, water. So, but as a general rule, nahi kalyanakrit kasyat durgatim tata kachyati. Guru Maharaj paraphrases Krishna's advice to Arjuna that let sincerity be your guide. Those who are sincere will emerge victorious. Sincerity is invincible. So it means we find ourselves in a variety of circumstances, and we're trying, that may compel us to make a spiritual approach. We want that to be earnest, sincere as possible. Knowing all alone that we have a strong tendency towards self-deception. And that usually appears in the form of imposing upon a person, place, or thing some concept we're carrying inside. Right? So we don't want the spiritual approach to be that, just I'm imposing my wish fulfillment upon another. But rather, back to the original point, what is descending into this plane to offer ourselves in service to that, not to try and make it serve our lower purpose. Right? But the concept of offering ourselves in service to something higher, that's enriching to the soul. Hridayena binugato yodharmasta nibodhata. The last factor, we're told, is the heart. The heart will recognize its own. The heart will recognize whom to give itself to. When I say, well, you could be wrong, then we'll have to be sincere, earnest, and not deceiving ourselves. So we say, well, we can't be sure. Well, then we pray, please, my dear Lord, let this not be another act of self-deception.
So in this story,
qualifying, as Guru said, appreciation for the truth. Otherwise, one can be, a sincere gangster. If we broaden it just to the point of being like committed to what you're doing, it must be in relation to the truth. But we know the truth comes in gradation also. Partial truth, the full truth, the highest truth in its fullest expression. So sometimes Guru Maharaj would say a man is judged by his ideal. So what is that ideal? Why is Srimati Radharani exalted so much? Because of her self-sacrificing degree and tendency toward the highest expression of truth, personified as Krishna. Self-giving, self-sacrifice. How much are we willing to sacrifice? Part of ourselves, half of ourselves. We see in this world when people want to excel at something, it requires a lot of self-sacrifice. Whether it's in sports, in business, in family, it could be anything. But it will require self-sacrifice to be realized. So we praise people when they give their lives for the sake of others, like patriots. Everywhere in the world they are honored. There's some day to honor the patriots of a country, any particular country, because they gave their lives for the greater good. So we consider that's a noble thing. They sacrificed themselves. So what if someone is sacrificing themselves for the ultimate cause? The ultimate cause of all causes. How noble is that type of sacrifice? And that connotes a particular level of sincerity, the willingness to sacrifice, to make personal sacrifice. Anything else?
So, Maharaj, back to this question of preaching. Like, for example, in the story with Mrigari Hunter, we see that first he was afraid by karmic reactions, by Narada Muni showed him, but gradually he became pure bhakta. So, and is it real type of preaching? First, as we say, Chaturmaryam, Vyasrishtam, etc. So first, people attract by some superficial things, fear of death, fear of karma, etc.
That depends on the expertise of the preacher. So here you have Narad Muni. First he comes to a level, he's approaching that man, Mrigari, this hunter, who we should say, for those who don't know the story, he rather than just killing the animals and then selling them to make a living, he half kills them. And he finds this enjoyable. So the great sage Narada, in the presence of Parvat Muni, he's saying, why do you do this? It gives me pleasure to see them squirm like that. So his first approach is to meet him in his zone, to explain why that's, others like you, they don't do that. He's, in a reasonable way, he's making an approach. But actually, Narada knows by just interacting with him, that's going to be the benefit for them. He's getting the association of Narad Muni. He's being upgraded in the process just by interacting with him. So we saw in the case of Srila Gurudev, in many instances, it's just allowing people to interact with him. On one level, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be over something trivial. But now they're establishing some rapport with a nirguna agent. Not that we should think of ourselves that way, but I'm analyzing this. So they're now interacting with a nirguna agent, which means inevitably they're going to be drawn into the nirguna plane. They're going to be liberated. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna in the beginning, he's talking to Arjuna as a Kshatriya, as someone in the Varnashram system. Then, so there's some, that type of karma kanda thing, Gyan, yoga, etc. But in the end, in the 18th chapter, in the end of Bhagavad Gita, where he says, now hear from me really the truth and the secret to all this. Manmana bhavamad bhakto majaji mam namaskar. Just become my devotee and forget all these other things, including what I was talking about before. Because now Arjun's been drawn into another zone where those things become irrelevant. Same thing with Dhruva. Dhruva Maharaj starts out, he has some mundane ambition to have a kingdom greater than his father, grandfather. That means Brahma, who occupies the topmost planet in the universe. So it's not really possible. Although it becomes possible as Dhruva Loka, the pole star, some Vaikuntha connection, it's a special dispensation. But at any rate, Dhruva, what leads him to do austerities in the forest is mundane motivation, right? A type of pratishta and mundane ambition. And he gets some guidance, again, from Narada. But now he's come under the guidance of the Nirguna agent, a pure devotee. Another type of result will come from that. So inevitably, when he sees in his meditation the Lord in his heart, and we're told the meditation breaks, it's heartbreaking to him. He can no longer see the Lord in the heart. He opens his eyes and sees that the Lord in the heart is now standing before him. And he says, in retrospect about his own situation, I was searching for broken pieces of glass, and now I have the most valuable gem. So the Bhagavatam concludes by saying, Akama sarvakama ba moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Whatever your motivation, whether you're free from desire, you're full of desire, you're desiring liberation, whatever it might be, aim that in the direction of Krishna. And along the way, as you come within the orbit of Krishna and become overwhelmed by the beauty, charm, sweetness, seductive attractiveness of Krishna, that will vanish. So, how do you say? Some transformation takes place along the way in numerous examples, but beginning with some interaction with a nirguna agent, right? Until the sukriti grows and develops and manifests as shraddha, faith proper, where the one becomes awakened to the prospect of this, that this is real. This isn't a fantasy. It's not an artificial imposition upon the mind, but it's reality. An awakening in the heart of an appreciation for reality, and leads one to seek the association of nirguna agents or sadhus, spiritually realized, advanced personalities, and then to proceed under their guidance and direction. Just like a person suffering from a disease seeks the treatment from an expert physician who knows exactly what to prescribe. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has that one series of songs where he describes himself as a ball, B-A-U-L, ball, from the Bal Sahaja Sampradaya. He says, and he's written the song in their style, what's appealing to them, everything. But within that song, he starts posing particular questions to them. In other words, now that I've got your attention, consider this. So to get the attention, some Gurudev's word was amalgam. Might have to mix in something else to capture the attention, and then bring them toward pure substance. Anything else?
Question from Indradyumna Prabhu. Such a danger exists that during our next lifetime we can be charmed by the material nature, and that can take us away from the way that we choose now. How to avoid it?
By appreciating what is before you. Guru Maharaj like to quote the English poetry. It says, "Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present. Heart within, God overhead." It's a fact. We don't know what the future will be and whether we'll have this opportunity. What does Mahaprabhu say? Mama janmani janmani shure bhavatad bhakti rahoituki tvai. What I can understand, I'll be born again and again within this world. Mama janmani janmani shure. So let me have the service and association of your devotees. So this sort of thinking should underscore the value of what is before one at present, to appreciate that and rededicate oneself. But otherwise, like Chitraketu, Narayana parak sarve, nakutasthana bibhiti, swarg apavarg, narakeshu tulyarta darshina. He said, heaven or hell, that's not my concern. But I want to have good association, service opportunity. Same with Bhaktivinoda. Kita janmaho jatatu adas bahir mukha brahme nahiyash. I would not prefer to be born as Brahma, the Lord of the universe. I'd rather be an insect if I'm not a devotee. I'd rather be an insect in the house of a devotee. So we see that the spiritual aspiration is best expressed in terms of seeking future association and service of Krishna's devotees. Hare Krishna.